Can you tell me your name?
Susie.
How do you say your last name, though, Susie?
How do you think?
Vybiral?
Close. Vybiral.
Vybiral? Okay.
Yes.
So Susie Vybiral.
Yes.
Hey, so I sent you some questions, but the only thing I didn't touch on that I wasn't sure if, might be worth touching on is, do you have an honorary doctorate? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I don't know anything about that. What is that?
Yeah. So it's when you're honored with a doctorate from a college or university. I was a peace ambassador for Texas through the Global Peace Challenge last year,
Okay.
2020, and met a bunch of people across the globe, and we talked about peace, and then they loved room Redux, and then they honored me with an honorary doctorate.
That's pretty legit, right?
It is.
But you can't write prescriptions, right?
Cannot do that. No.
Okay.
No. But I'm working on my doctorate in psychology. So in about a year or so, I'll be Dr. Seuss.
My name is Chris Hughes, and this is the American Business Show. We join business owners to take a close look at what made their businesses prosper and what to look out for in the marketplace today. If you're interested in how to get started or how to keep going, this show is a resource for you.
Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're talking with Susie Vybiral from Room Redux. Room Redux is a nonprofit that transforms the rooms of children that have been sexually or physically abused. When I started this podcast, the goal was to talk with successful business owners about how they built their business. As a nonprofit, Room Redux is a little outside that scope, but I particularly love the mission of this nonprofit, and I believe that as business owners, there are a lot of lessons we can learn from Susie's journey. So let's start off. What is the mission of Room Redux? Well, let's say that. How do we say it? Room Redux? Is that correct?
Perfect.
Okay. Well, I got one of those
I
things,
knew
right?
I liked you.
What is the mission of Room Redux?
We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we transform the rooms of children who have faced sexual and physical abuse, really any type of trauma, neglect, things like that. We do this anonymously, so the children never see us, and we do it in one day. That's our mission. On a broad spectrum, one of our ultimate goals is to break the cycles of abuse.
I think your organization is absolutely fantastic. It's something I never thought about before. A whole new way of attacking an issue that I think is a huge issue and needs to be addressed. So what's the effect that a room renovation has on a child you work with?
Well, we get impact statements from the families. We get them usually about a week and a half afterward, after the room transformation. And then we get an impact statement about a month after, 3 months after, a year after. We want to know how the child is doing going forward. How is that healing process looking? Because they're in counseling. That's one of the prerequisites. The children have to be in counseling or have been through counseling for the trauma. That's a crucial part of the healing puzzle. But then they're going back to a room where abuse occurred, or there were triggers, or maybe it didn't happen in the room, but they still deserve to know that they're loved and cared about by people who don't even know them. So going forward, getting both of those parts of the healing puzzle is what we're finding is truly helping them. They're now sleeping in their room. I get impact statements all the time that say, she didn't sleep in her room for 5 years, or he doesn't have friends over. He crawls into my room and sleeps on a pallet on the floor because he's scared of the dark or scared to be in there, things like that. But now these children, very often they have the prettiest room in the house, the most fun room in the house. And so they want to be in their room. They're inviting friends over. Just recently, I got a family impact statement about a girl. Her room we transformed, I think it was a year and a half ago, and it was a really bad case. She was cutting. She was so depressed and so anxious and sad and fearful. And now she is helping other children. She stopped cutting, and now she's talking children, friends, through what they're going through and helping them heal. That's huge.
The concept of Room Redux is to create a safe place for the children, right? How did you come up with this idea?
I used to be a family advocate at an advocacy center, and every single day I would hear unfathomable things that these children were going through. I've always had a heart for children, and I've always thought they should have the most magical upbringing, beautiful rooms. And I did. I always had a pretty room, and my mom always made sure that everything was pretty in my room. I mean, you're sitting in my office right now, and when I saw my square on Zoom during COVID, I thought, wow, that light blue is kind of pretty, but it's kind of drab. And so I painted it Invigorate. And now I feel invigorated when I come into my office. It's such a happy space with lights and color, and it energizes me. Well, these children, when they don't want to be in their room and they show no interest in cleaning it or decorating it because they're scared and they don't want to be in there, it doesn't help them thrive. So by our going in there and changing their environment, they're actually learning to care about themselves again, care about their environment, and they come out of there feeling more confident. They feel loved, they feel seen and cared about, and so do the caregivers. They realize, oh, we have advocates. There are people who care. We don't just go in and transform their rooms and then see ya, bye. We keep in contact with them. There was a boy whose room we transformed it was 2 years ago, and we put a race car bed in his room. Really, really cool room. That room was called Race Car, by the way. We name all of our rooms. And he was 5 years old. Well, in 5 years from now, he may not want that race car bed. He may want something a little more grown up. And if they're at a point where they need our help, we'll go in and we'll do another room transformation for him.
How did you come up with the idea that transforming a room would make a difference in these child's lives?
There are programs, grants that when I worked at the Advocacy Center, there was a grant where we could help a child. I got to pick one child out of 600 that we would see and give them some new stuff for their room. But it was one child out of all of these children. And when I did that, and then I spoke to the parents afterward, it was such an amazing thing. The parents felt loved, the children felt loved, and I thought, we need to do this all the time. And so that's why I started Room Redux.
Now, is your background with nonprofits?
I have only volunteered with nonprofits, and then I actually, like I said, I was a family advocate at an advocacy center for about 3 years. That's it. That's the extent of my knowledge of nonprofits. So when I started Room Redux, I literally started from the ground up. I started from scratch. I knew nothing. People say all the time, well, what do you do first? Even when executive directors with Room Redux want to start a chapter, what do I do first? Do I get the referrals? Do I raise the money? Do I spread the word? And I look at them and I say, yes, you do all of those things. When I look back at 2019, especially when we blew up, I see every day as I ran 2 marathons. That's what my days were like. Woke up first thing in the morning, ran all day, whether it was mixers, networking events, taking brochures and cards to counseling centers, all of the things, talking wherever I could. I still do that.
Do you have a corporate background?
I don't.
So what were you doing before Room Redux?
I essentially was Susie Homemaker most of my life, literally Susie Homemaker. My son is 28. He's now our COO of Room Redux, smartest person I know. And I did things here and there, but I was mostly a PTA mom and room mother, things like that. And then, like I said, I started working at the Advocacy Center. And I did that because I needed an internship. When my son started college at 16 years old, I drove him for 2 years to Austin, which is about an hour and a half away from where I live, to college. And so I thought, this is the perfect time for me to start college. So I started my bachelor's in 2011, and then I rolled right into my master's and now into my doctorate. One of my hashtags is do all the things. I feel like we're here a short time, so do all the things.
Were you intimidated at all about starting a nonprofit like this?
No. I don't really get intimidated about much, honestly, because I know how crucial this is. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused before the age of 18. And that is Texas. That's right here. That's San Antonio, New Braunfels, this county. To be able to transform the rooms, but more importantly, transform the lives of children everywhere across the globe, that is it's my passion. And so when you have a passion, this is what I think anyway, when you have a passion, nothing's going to slow you down or scare you or intimidate you.
So what were the first steps you took to start Room Redux?
I actually got a referral and transformed 2 rooms in 2017. That was the first step. And a friend had some money, and we got in and transformed those rooms. And then the next year, 2018, we came up with a name, and we transformed 3 rooms. And then the top of 2019, we formed a board, and then that's when we started to blow up, speaking everywhere, talking to everyone. So really getting the word out. I'm probably a broken record, but I talk about Room Redux everywhere I go because it's so important to me.
So after you started Room Redux and you started completing the first several rooms, how did that feel to actually know that you're out there, you're actually doing it?
Absolutely phenomenal. There is, in my opinion, really nothing better. To know that we're transforming, like I said, these children's lives. We're actually what we're finding is changing the trajectory of their lives. Many children go on to perpetrate against their siblings or their friends, or grow up to be adults who perpetrate because that's what they know. That's how they grew up. That's what they know from their childhood. So to be able to break those cycles and, like I said, change the trajectory. I mean, I can geek out and talk to you about psychology, the psychology of the mind, because that's my jam. That's what I'm going to school for. But the wiring in a child's brain changes when they've faced sexual or physical abuse. And so, again, to be able to let them know it doesn't have to be like this. It can be different. You are worthy. That, too, can change the wiring in their brain for the good, for the better.
How many cities are you guys in?
Active cities, we are in 8. We have transformed lots of rooms and lives in 8 states right now, 8 cities. But we're also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 more that are in the works. They're working to get referrals, working to get money, spread the word, those kinds of things. And we actually just filed in the UK a month ago.
Okay.
Yes. We have a lady out there, Natalie, who is very, very, very involved in trying to stop child abuse, really, awareness and all those kind of things. So she's starting a chapter on the Isle of Wight, but even on a bigger, broader scope, she is starting Room Redux UK, which will encompass Ireland, Scotland, Wales, all of those countries.
You've been able to scale Room Redux to the point that you have a presence in over 13 different states, and you said a presence even in the UK now.
Yes.
Right? Talk to me about that process. How did that happen?
It's interesting because, like I said, 2019 is when we really, really blew up. I started doing podcasts, interviews on TV, magazines, things like that. And I always shout out to the Skim. I don't know if you've heard of the Skim, TheSkimm, but it's an online news source mainly geared toward women, and it's the Skim of the news. August 22nd, 2019, I was Skimmer of the Week because I had submitted something, talking about Room Redux, and that really was, I believe, the impetus to spreading like wildfire. I woke up to over 500 emails, $1,500 in donations, people wanting to start chapters, people wanting to donate. And so I reached out to every single person. I emailed everyone and I said, if you or anyone you know would like to start a chapter in fill in the blank, please let me know. And people did. Plus, I told you I talk a lot. Everywhere.
So I want to be clear. You were actively in the habit of sharing information about Room Redux to really whoever would listen. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And then what happened is one of these really hit. It kind of went, for lack of a better term, went viral.
Yes.
Right? And that's what really blew everything up. That's very interesting.
That's a great way to say it. And 2, in the beginning especially, my whole intention was to be very, very, very anonymous. Who is Room Redux? Who are these people? Who's the CEO? Doesn't matter. None of that matters, which is why we like the anonymity and the confidentiality. But even our business cards did not have names on them. So if I were to give you a stack of business cards, you wouldn't say, hey, check this out. My friend Susie does this, or they do this. You're going to say, we do this, because you, Chris, are Room Redux. Anyone who donates time, money, furniture, volunteers, spreads the word, talks about, prays about Room Redux is Room Redux.
How well is that still going for you? Have you felt a need to kind of step forward as like a figurehead of the organization?
Yes. I quickly realized that when you are trying to get grants, when you're trying to get donations, people do want to see a face. And obviously I started Room Redux, so my passion level is through the roof, and so it's a natural fit. Plus, I like to speak and talk and spread the word about this. So that happened, but it's necessary. I understand now. But still, one of the main premises behind what we do is we are Room Redux, and it takes everyone. So I correct people all the time when they say, I love what you do. Even board members, you're doing a great job. I always say, it's we. We are doing a great job.
If you taught a class on starting and running a nonprofit, what would your first lesson be about?
My first lesson, if I taught a class, would probably surround the idea of relationship. And what I mean by that is it's important to have relationships with people. I can talk all day and spread the word all day, but if I'm not connecting with a person, it may not resonate with you on a deeper level. There are people who come up to me when they've heard me speak and they say, where were you in 1975? This happened to me, or this happened to my child. And it gives me chills talking about it because it happens so often. And I ask if I can hug them and talk to them. And when it resonates with them on that level, there's just it's relationship. It's sharing. That's a really deep thing to share with someone. There are other people who it hasn't happened. They've not faced any abuse And I always, thank God. That's a wonderful thing to hear when it hasn't. But it still resonates with them in some form or fashion because they care about children and they care about our future.
Is Room Redux your final professional stop, or do you imagine yourself doing something different in the future?
Ha! That question makes me laugh because I have truly found my passion. Like I said, I say do all the things. I have a band. I am an efficient. I can marry you. I'm writing a book. I'm a contributing editor for San Antonio Woman magazine. I love to write articles for the Circle magazine, different magazines and things like that. Like I said, do all the things. But as far as passion goes, as far as what I want to do for the rest of my life, it's absolutely Room Redux. There is no, in my personal opinion, no greater cause or when we think about these children, what they've been through, to think about the possibility, like I said, to stop these cycles of abuse, because these children are going to grow up and be in charge. They're going to be our politicians and our teachers, and we have to make sure that we're taking care of them. And also, I like making sure that these predators that are out there, I'm hoping anyway, that they see that we are banding together, whether it's the FBI, counselors, you, Room Redux, we're banding together and we're watching. We're watching y'all. We're stopping this. I don't have a Pollyanna attitude where I think, oh, we're going to completely abolish abuse. I know that's not the case. Unfortunately, it's the world we live in. But we certainly can try to stop. One of our executive directors, it's actually Lori in Shreveport, she has this saying, there's a story that she loves, and it's about starfish. Have you heard this story?
I have, but perhaps the listener has not.
Perhaps others haven't. Okay, so a girl's walking along the beach, and she sees just tons of stranded, essentially, starfish. And so she picks one up, and she throws it back out into the ocean. She picks another one up, throws it out into the ocean. This man walks by, and he says, "What are you doing?" She says, "These poor starfish, they're beached, and so I'm throwing them back in the ocean." He said, "Look down the beach. There are thousands of starfish. You're never going to be able to save all those starfish. You're never going to make a difference." She picks the starfish up, and she throws it out into the ocean, and she says, "I made a difference for that one." That's what we're doing.
Thank you to Susie from Room Redux for taking the time to talk with us today. Even though Susie runs a nonprofit, a lot of what she spoke about can guide us on our for-profit business journey. 3 main lessons I learned from talking with Susie. The first one is this. It's going to be belief overcomes. Belief in the mission overcomes fear. Belief in the mission overcomes hardship. Susie believes in what she is doing, and that belief allows her to push whenever the work is hard. That belief allows her to do scary things like ask for support. On the business side, belief matters as well. If you believe in your business, if you believe in the product or service you offer, if you believe that you are offering something beneficial for your client, then it makes it easier to persevere. It is easier to ask for the sale when you believe that what you offer can actually help. It is easier to keep going when you believe that what you're doing actually matters. Second lesson I learned from Susie was that Susie is always promoting Room Redux. She is always sharing her vision with others. She went viral on a news blog because she was consistently sharing. There will be no bigger advocate for your business than you. If you aren't out there promoting your business, you're missing out. At least initially, you can't expect people to just come to you. You have to be talking about your business. And the third and final lesson is this: think scale. This is my #1 criteria in a business. Does it scale? Room Redux is a service that resonates with people worldwide. She has grown the nonprofit to multiple states and even overseas. For you in your business, you need to be thinking scaling from the beginning. Not just, can I make one location work, but how does this work in multiple locations? This needs to be a part of your planning from the start. You will never see the growth and value in your business you want if you aren't thinking this way. Thanks again to Susie from Room Redux. If you'd like more information about Room Redux, or if you'd like to donate to the cause, visit Room Redux's website at roomredux.org. That's room, REDUX.org. This episode of the American Business Show was brought to you by Bottom Line Realty Advisors. Don't ever sign a lease or a lease renewal without representation. Your landlord has professionals working on their behalf. Wouldn't you like to have a professional working on yours? Call Bottom Line Realty Advisors at 210-535-7800. That's 210-535-7800 and get the representation you deserve. This episode was also brought to you by American Business Intermediaries. Thinking of selling your business? Call American Business Intermediaries at 210-479-0907 or visit them at abitexas.com. Just so you know, I'll probably cut the podcast after you say one. I made a difference to that one. then we'll go into my outro.
Okay.
I'm still recording this for the record, but we're kind of through with the podcast here. I think what you do is super interesting. Like, it's actually amazing.
Thank you.
And I think that, I work underneath the assumption, this is kind of sad about the world, but I work underneath the assumption that every woman I talk to has been affected by sexual abuse in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And so I always try to be very careful, very aware of this stuff.
Right.
Who knows what's a trigger, what hurt lies beneath, anything like that. But it's amazing. I spend a fair amount of time sitting around smoking cigars and talking about the world with people, right? And so we sit there and we try to solve these world problems, stuff like that. And it seems like that this issue, in my opinion, the sexualization of women and just really everything's built contrary to how it should be, And so I really do appreciate what you're doing out there because everything is cyclical. We see this over and over again. I'm pretty religious, so I think a lot of this has to do just with the hearts of men. I think they are broken and depraved is the term I use. And so
are you Christian?
I am a Christian. Yeah. And
we are too. And people want to say, "I love your ministry." Well, it's not a ministry.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that we're going to be in Timbuktu one day, everywhere. So we want to make sure. We just happen to be an organization run by Christians.
Yeah. I think that's actually, I really respect that. Yeah. I mean, I have to go pretty deep theologically with stuff like that, but I do, like, it's not evangelism, but it's valuable.
Right.
And it does make a difference. And I think that oftentimes if you pair acts of service and love with the truth of the gospel, that's how you do it versus just feed people with the truth. No one cares about what you know unless they know that you care, right?
Right.
And I think that's really valuable. So.
And Jesus said, "Go."
Yeah, absolutely.
Go out and do.
Yeah, really. And I think even other resources too, like how do we prevent this stuff from happening? I think I remember I told you I do assume that this has happened, right? But I have 5 children. I have 3 girls.
Wow.
And so, but I think about this when they go over to people's houses. So I'm not just worried about the father. I'm worried about the older brother. I'm worried about whatever other male is going to be around in the situation. That's what I'm worried about.
Females too. But females too.
Well, just more stuff to worry about, I guess.
I know, sorry.
But it's
but it's true.
I believe that. Yeah. And just how do you make people aware? Not just aware it's happening. And I don't want to sound like I'm over vilifying even the individuals that do this. I think some are villains, but I think some are just. We live in a sexually broken world, and I think people don't understand what's even going on in themselves. They don't understand what's appropriate. I think pornography is like the worst thing in the world. And I think if you look at like how rampant, how pervasive it is, like if you're a 13, 14-year-old boy, you don't understand how the real issue that's happening there. You don't understand the weight viewing that stuff has on your mind, your sexual development, everything like that. And then, 13, 14-year-old boys are not known for their self-control and discipline.
No.
I think it just creates an environment that's not good.
Yeah.